How does the most sophisticated biological machine on Earth find itself on the brink of a total domestic meltdown over something as insignificant as a piece of wood?
It sounds like madness. It sounds like a logistical catastrophe. Think about it. Your body is willing to burn through thousands of calories of precious energy,
Mobilize billions of highly specialized soldiers, and intentionally sacrifice millions of its own healthy, hardworking citizens. All of this just to neutralize a single, microscopic wooden splinter. But to understand this apparent insanity, you have to understand the code. In the unforgiving world of human biology, there is no such thing as a small threat. There is only the survival of the city. The immune system doesn't carry a calculator. It doesn't look at the bottom line or weigh the economic cost of a localized fever. It lives by a strict, ancient, and unbreakable protocol. Leave no cell behind. Protect the integrity of the border at any cost. Even if that cost is a brutal, scorched earth campaign that leaves you shivering in bed for days. You see, to your immune system, that tiny splinter isn't just debris, it's a massive, unguided ballistic missile. It has just shattered the radar horizon of your epidermis, tearing through the pristine sky of your skin and dragging a lethal payload of invisible biological invaders deep into the high-value infrastructure of your soft tissue. Every jagged edge of that wood is a tactical nightmare. Every second it remains, the threat multiplies. The breach is real. The sensors are screaming and the counter-response. It's going to be absolute, relentless, and strategically devastating. This is the survival of the city. This is the invisible war raging beneath your fingertips. And it all begins the exact millisecond that boundary is broken. This is stage 1, the breach. Stage 1. The breach happens in a fraction of a second, but for the city, it's an extinction-level event. The clock starts at 0000. This is the exact moment a jagged, unpolished wooden splinter, a primitive ballistic missile, shatters the radar horizon of your epidermis. Your skin isn't just a covering, it's a multi-layered, high-tech defense grid designed to deflect 99% of external threats. But this splinter is a tactical nightmare. It doesn't just cut, it drags. It pulls a lethal payload of soil-borne bacteria and fungal spores deep into the high-value infrastructure of your dermis, landing right in the middle of a dense network of high-sensitivity neural sensors. Immediately, the red alert is triggered. These sensors flash a high-priority signal directly to the central command, the brain reporting a catastrophic structural failure at the border. The sensors aren't just screaming pain, they are providing precise GPS coordinates of the impact zone, pinpointing exactly where the invisible enemy is beginning to deploy. Then comes stage 2, the deception and zoning game. This is where the body's internal CIA, the mast cells, take over. These cells are essentially biological tripwires scattered throughout your tissue, waiting for a breach. The second they detect the jagged edges of the splinter and the chemical signatures of invading bacteria, they launch a massive disinformation campaign. They release a chemical flood called histamine. Now to you, this just feels like a localized itch or a slight swelling. But in the theater of war, this is a masterstroke of logistics. Histamine acts as a vasodilation command. It forces the local supply routes, your blood vessels, to widen and become leaky. This is a calculated risk. By making the vessels more permeable, the body is essentially opening the highway gates. It allows the massive troop reinforcements trapped in the fast-moving bloodstream to slow down, exit the main interstate, and swarm into the civilian tissue where the splinter is lodged, the resulting swelling. That's not an accident. That is a deliberate tactical moat designed to slow down the bacteria's advance, trapping them in a fluid-filled kill zone while the heavy armor arrives. That brings us to stage 3, the tip of the spear. By 2:15 a.m. in cellular time, the first responders hit the dirt. These are the neutrophils. Think of them as the MH6 little birds of the immune system. Fast, aggressive, and absolutely suicidal. They are the most abundant warriors in your arsenal, and they don't wait for a detailed briefing. They follow a chemical trail, a process called chemotaxis, which leads them straight to the heat of the breach. When they arrive, they don't just fight, they launch a withering wall of suppressive fire. They are programmed to engulf bacteria, literally eating the enemy until they themselves explode in a final, scorched earth move called netosis, where they vomit their own DNA to create a literal biological net that traps any remaining invaders. They are the infantry that buys the city time, paying for every second with their own lives. They aren't here to win the war. They are here to hold the line until the elite operators can be deployed. Stage 4. This is where the heavy armor moves in. As the initial skirmish turns into an absolute slugfest, the macrophages arrive. These are the Delta Force operators of your body. They are massive, highly intelligent, and armed with an arsenal of toxic lysosomal enzymes that can dissolve almost any organic material. They don't just swarm, they organize. They establish a 360-degree defensive perimeter around the splinter, effectively tagging every single bacterium with antibodies, the biological equivalent of a laser target lock. Once a target is painted, the macrophages move in for the kill, engaging in a brutal, hours-long firefight. They are the ones clearing the jagged valleys of the Splinter, ensuring that no enemy element steps within range of the deeper, more sensitive infrastructure of your bloodstream. If the neutrophils are the suppressive fire, the macrophages are the precision strikes that turn the tide of the engagement. Finally, we hit Stage 5, the Scorched Earth campaign. When the ground war is too intense, when the sheer volume of bacteria begins to threaten the perimeter, the body activates its most controversial Sandy protocol. It raises the temperature. This is a fever. It's the military equivalent of burning your own crops to starve the advancing army. By raising the city's temperature, the body is trying to cook the bacteria, making the environment too hostile for them to replicate. It's a race against physics. The body is betting that its own vital systems can survive the heat longer than the invaders can. Meanwhile, at the impact site, the carnage is visible to the naked eye. The wreckage of millions of dead neutrophils, dissolved bacteria, and destroyed tissue begins to accumulate. This is the white moo, the pus. It is the charred remains of the fallen, grim monument to the billions of individual sacrifices made to hold a single millimeter of territory. The battle for the Splinter is a tactical nightmare, a high-stakes race against a converging convoy of infections. But as the smoke clears and the city begins to stabilize the breach, a deeper question emerges. Why does a machine built to dominate its environment find itself so vulnerable to a simple piece of wood? Why does the defense grid sometimes turn on itself, causing more damage than the Splinter ever could? To understand the death of the Black Widow of helicopters, you had to understand the physics of air. But to understand why your own body can become its own worst enemy, you have to understand the ghost in the machine, the cytokine storm. And that is where things get truly insane. But why does a defense system this advanced, refined over millions of years of biological evolution, seem to lose its mind? Why does it feel like your own body is trying to tear you apart just because of a sliver of wood? To understand the chaos of the slugfest, you have to understand the most dangerous weapon in your arsenal, the cytokine storm. In the theater of modern war, think of this as electronic warfare gone completely haywire. Normally, cytokines are like the high-frequency radio bursts used by Delta operators to coordinate a strike. They are short, precise, and vital. But in the heat of a massive infection, the communication network can suffer a catastrophic feedback loop. The signal becomes the noise. Instead of a surgical strike, the body releases an invisible net of chemicals that screams attack everything at maximum volume. It's a total blackout of the command and control structure. Your cells can no longer tell the difference between a foreign invader and the high-value infrastructure of your own healthy tissue. It's a blue-on-blue incident on a microscopic scale, where your own artillery begins to rain hellfire on the very city it was built to protect. This is why you feel that bone-deep ache. It's the cost of a defense grid that doesn't know when to quit. But how do the invaders survive the initial onslaught in the first place? If your immune system is a billion-dollar S-400 radar network, then bacteria are the masters of electromagnetic deception. They don't just sit there, they use terrain masking. Some bacteria are equipped with a biological version of stealth technology, a meticulously calculated protein coating that renders them practically invisible to the radar horizon of your T cells. Think of a T cell like an F-35's distributed aperture system, scanning the environment for any heat anomaly or radar signature. The bacteria use their outer capsule to mimic the molecular geometry of your own cells. They are spoofing the system, hiding in the chaotic eddies of your tissue fluid like a strike eagle hiding in a mountain gorge. They bypass the early warning sensors entirely, setting up devastating short-range ambushes before your heavy armor even knows they've crossed the border. Stealth, as it turns out, isn't just for million-dollar jets. It's a tax paid by every organism trying to stay alive in a contested space. This brings us to the aha moment, the tech twist that ensures the city isn't just surviving, but evolving. This is adaptive immunity, what we call the immunity radar map. When the battle is finally over and the macrophages are clearing the wreckage of the fallen, your body doesn't just throw away the data, it does something incredible. Special cells called B cells take the wreckage of the invader, the jagged edges of their protein coats, and use them to manufacture the ultimate precision munition, antibodies. In the cellular world, an antibody is the equivalent of a javelin or a Hellfire missile, with a perfect laser target lock. They are U-shaped proteins meticulously designed to fit only one specific enemy. Once your body creates them, it keeps the blueprints in a deep storage bunker called memory cells. This is your biological Sandy protocol. If that same species of bacteria ever tries to breach the border again, they won't find a confused defense grid. They will find an invisible net of antibodies already loitering in the sky. These antibodies will instantly paint the targets, allowing your defense systems to annihilate the threat entirely within the infrared spectrum before the bacteria even have a chance to replicate. You won't even feel the itch. You are operating with total impunity in your own airspace because your body never forgets a signature. It's a masterpiece of electromagnetic and biological deception. You see, the pain you feel during an infection isn't a sign of failure. It's the sound of the engine screaming at maximum power as your body barely clears the tree line of a tactical nightmare. It's the price of being a machine shaped for laminar flow in a world full of chaotic eddies. Every fever, every sung tae, and every scar is a verified photo of a crash site where your body chose to burn 100 million cells just to save the one person that matters most, you. When you look at that tiny splinter, you aren't just looking at a piece of wood. You're looking at the catalyst for a massive multi-staged hellborn assault. You're looking at the reason your internal Sandy protocol was activated at 2 a.m. while you were fast asleep. This is the brutal conflict between two invisible forces, the raw physics of infection and the uncompromising geometry of your survival. You aren't just flying anymore. You're thriving in a mechanical abyss of your own making, supported by the most elite operators in the known universe. And as the smoke clears and the city begins to heal the breach, you realize that no one gets left behind isn't just a code the military lives by, it's the very foundation of your existence. So why does any of this matter? Because while you've already forgotten that tiny splinter, your body hasn't. It's a minor inconvenience to you, but for the billions of cells that held the line, it was a war for survival. The wreckage has been cleared, the swelling has gone down, and the city is back to business. But deep in your cellular memory banks, the data from that encounter is being uploaded and archived. The code, "No cell left behind," isn't something your body needs to be taught. It's not a choice made by a commander in a bunker. It is a biological instinct, a raw, uncompromising force of nature that has been protecting you since the day you were born. It is the masterpiece of deception that keeps you walking, breathing, and thriving in a world filled with invisible enemies. Every fever you've ever fought, every scar on your knuckles, and every pulse of pain is a verified report from the front lines. It's proof that when things go terribly wrong, when the radar horizon is broken and all hell breaks loose, your internal special forces will move heaven and earth, literally burning your own energy to bring you back to safety. You aren't just a bystander in your own life. You are the high-value asset that an entire microscopic empire is dedicated to protecting. We make these original videos from scratch, researched by experts and animated by humans to ensure that every tactical detail of the human body is brought to life. If you want to understand the silent wars and the insane engineering that keeps you alive, please subscribe so you don't miss our next mission, because in this city, no one gets left behind, not on our watch.